that toxicity sort of built up during that deployment. Those three were trying to get other people to join them, in the platoon, like, hey, just hating on me all the time.
There's a SEAL platoon full of, 20 dudes, and there's 3 dudes stepping out of line. Like, where the fuck was the rest of those dudes? Where the hell was the rest of the solid NCOs on that team to say, hey man, you 3 need to get your shit together or we're gonna take your ass out back and beat the fuck out of you?
So I had like 3 guys in that platoon that, our personalities didn't jive.
How long have those guys been in those?
So I was 10 years older than the oldest dude in that platoon. So,
okay.
So there was a big generational gap as well.
Yeah, they're babies.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, compared to me, it was, and none of them had combat experience at all.
So I can attest to this, guys, because my last team, the team that I was the team sergeant of, there were some young dudes on that team, right? But at the end of the day, I was the senior enlisted guy on the team. I was the team sergeant. And if some of my guys didn't like me, I didn't know about it. Hopefully that wasn't the case. But as the senior enlisted guy on that team, as the team sergeant, I can tell you right now, I'm not there to be liked by my guys. Right, I had a job to do, and that is to get them ready for war, make sure I take them to war, lead them at war, make sure they came back home with all their fucking limbs and in one piece. That was my job, right? My job wasn't to be liked. My job wasn't to be like one of the boys. And as a senior enlisted guy, whether you're on a SEAL team or whether you're on a SF-48 or a platoon, that's your job, right? Is to make sure everybody gets home. Being light, no one gives a fuck about that, right?
Wow. But you went on 8 deployments.
Yeah, so that's all I had been doing. So it was definitely, it was different, but these guys were, they said they wanted it. They're like, this is what we signed up for. And then when we got over there and actually got into the show, they sort of showed their ass a little bit. You could see, they weren't comfortable with a lot of stuff that was going on. And it was, I'll give them this, that was a chaotic deployment. There was a lot of, what do you call it?
Death.
A lot of death.
Like
a lot of watching women and kids and men get mowed down in front of us by ISIS. So, I mean, it was a lot to take on for somebody that's never been to combat. So I'll give them that benefit of the doubt. But the problem with them, much like the problem with a lot of that generation and just what I'm seeing now, is like there's no accountability. It's like, hey, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Instead, they blamed the leader. This is your fault that you put me in this situation. You're making me do these things. So
now I'm sure this happens, right? I haven't witnessed it, when I had my team, even though we didn't go into a combat zone. We did a Jordan rotation. But I can honestly say, like, the dudes that I had, they were solid dudes, hungry to get after it. But let's just say that for the sake of this video, that was the case, right? I had 3 guys that were bitter, that, this isn't what they signed up for. What would you have done? Like, what could you have done right then and there, knowing that those guys weren't fully in it or didn't fully want to be there and they were going to be an issue? Like, what could you have done? Now, I can tell you, from being a regular dude on a team, not necessarily in a leadership role, but being a senior on a team, and we had guys that didn't really mesh. We had guys that didn't really fit the team dynamics. Bro, it's as easy as, hey man, let's have a talk. And this was more so the seniors doing this, because when you're in a environment where you rely on each other to watch your back, and it's such a small confined space, like everyone there has to be there for the right reason. Everyone there has to want to be there. And I remember in the past, like we just sat a dude down and be like, hey man, like, do you want to be here? And if he doesn't, or if he doesn't say the right thing, the next flight, he's on that bird and he's out of there. He's no longer part of that team because we can't afford to have that.
That toxicity sort of built up during that deployment. Those 3 were trying to get other people to join them, in the platoon, like, hey, just hating on me all the time.
That's crazy, because many times you want to deploy in these war combat zones and they have no experience and they're attacking you for doing what they sign up to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's weak. That's just a sign of weakness. But nevertheless, it's what they did. But even we finished out the deployment and we got home, and they kept that going. So they went to the command, and so I got all.
So, man, like it's hard for me to listen to this because as I'm hearing him speak, I'm like, bro, like you are a senior non-commissioned officer. Like maybe the SEAL teams are different than SF, but as a team sergeant, hell, even as a senior E7 on the team, like we have so much power. It's ridiculous, right? Because the captain, he's just visiting. He's just passing through, right? He's there for 18 months, get a couple of good pumps in. He's out of there. The team sergeant, if he's lucky, he'll end up doing 36 months. But for the most part, he's there for 2 years. But those senior E7s that's been on that team, they have the ability to shape that dynamics, right? And if there's a SEAL platoon full of 20 dudes and there's 3 dudes stepping out of line, like where the fuck was the rest of those dudes? Where the hell was the rest of the solid NCOs on that team to say, hey man, you 3 need to get your shit together or we're gonna take your ass out back and beat the fuck out of you, right? That's how those type of entities operate, right? And that's on the dude part, but as a senior leader, as the senior non-commissioned officer on that team, bro, hey man, grab a seat. All right, in the military, we have this thing called counseling statement. Check it out. You 3, here's your counseling statement. You're fucking up. You got 3 months to get your shit together, or you're out of this fucking platoon. You got 3 months. Fast forward, that shit continues. Pack your shit. Get the fuck out of my platoon. Right? Again, maybe it's an Army thing. Maybe it's a SF thing. But this is fucking nonsense. And the fact that he allowed that to happen, I don't really feel bad for this dude because it's like, bro, like you are a senior non-commissioned officer, right? And you let these dudes fucking infect your platoon like this, like that's all on you. Are you interested in attending Special Forces assessment and selection? Are you prepared to go? Have you done everything that you can that's within your power to ensure that you're able to attend, crush, and get selected? If there's any hint of hesitation there, guys, more than likely the answer is no. With that in mind, I want to give you another tool that you can gravitate towards that's going to help you get that much more prepared. If you haven't done so already, guys, check out the description box below. Go to the Patreon. There you'll have access to a variety of prep courses that I put together geared towards helping you attend and crush Special Forces in selection. Once you get signed up, you'll get access to the Discord where at any given times, there's 90 other dudes on there that's currently going through the Special Forces journey. Some of them are currently at airborne school. Others have just graduated basic and AIT. Others have been a selection. Some have gotten selected. Some haven't. But it's a community that I'm trying to build to give you guys a outlet so you could communicate with guys that are currently going through the same process. And on top of that, guys, you'll get access to me at any given times for any question that you might have. So if you have any doubt, guys, on whether or not you are ready to attend, I encourage you to check out the Patreon, all right? It's going to cost you $19 to either live a life of fulfillment or a life of regret. Fulfillment in knowing that you paid the $19 to go get the information that's going to give you the edge over the next dude to attend and crush selection. Regret in knowing that you didn't spend that $19 to give yourself an edge. Now you attended and failed selection. It's $19. If you don't like what you see at the Patreon, you can always cancel your subscription, guys. The intent here, guys, is to help you prep so you could attend and crush selection. So if you haven't done so already, go over to the Patreon. I'll see you there.
I got some accolades from that deployment. I got, #1 chief. I was getting put in for awards, stuff like that. And so they went.
That must have really pissed him off.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were not happy about that. So they went to the command and were like, "Hey, this guy, he's dangerous. Like his tactics are dangerous. He was making us do, dangerous stuff out there." So the command was like, "Well, what was he making do that was dangerous?" And so they'd explain it, and the command was like, nope, those are tactics. Like, we've been doing those for the past 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
So then they just kept escalating their allegations, trying to get something. So like, oh, well, he was stealing from us. And they're like, what? And they're like,
stole from him?
Yeah, so I stole.
When you stole from and went to the Jack Shack?
Yeah. That's it. Brought back my Marine Corps days. Yeah.
What did they say you stole?
Let's see, a Red Bull out of the fridge, which was 6 months, prior. And then,
so you did take
I mean, I'm like, maybe, maybe I did take a Red. I don't know. Like, why are you bringing this up 6 months later?
Yeah,
like,
it's a fucking Red Bull, right?
Yeah. Power bars out of like the care packages. Like, it was such like petty BS. And then once again, the command was like, get out of here. Like, this isn't an issue. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until probably 8 weeks later they came back to like, we saw him stab an ISIS prisoner to death. And so
prisoner?
Yeah. In which we'll get to that because there was no prisoners on that deployment. We weren't taking any. So the command's like, all right.
Man, it's hard for me to listen to this, guys, because it's hard for me to listen to it and it's hard for me to have any sympathy because everything that's happening, he allowed to happen to himself, right? Like, this could have been squashed at the very beginning by just practicing some strong leadership skills, right? Again, I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly how things unfold, but I do have an opinion about this, and hearing him speak about this is like, man, if anybody out there is watching this and you're in a similar situation or you're in a leadership position and this type of stuff is happening, don't let it fester because this is where it could lead. All right. Either give those guys within your platoon that you're in charge of task condition standards, give them, a purpose, let them know the direction that the platoon needs to go in, set that culture, right? Because at the end of the day, within that platoon, there was a culture of guys backstabbing each other or else this would have never happened or else the other, 17 plus dudes would have checked those other 3. Guys, when I had my team, more often than none, before a problem even got to my level, my seniors or my other senior NCOs, they already taken care of it. Because I always tell them, hey, by the time this shit gets to my level, like, we're done. Like, we're past the point of talking, right? If your dude's fucked up, you better handle him before he gets to my level. Because by the time me and the captain hear about it, those dudes are gone, right? So all of this craziness that unfold could have been taken care of and nipped in the butt with the first sign of undermining. Hey, go execute. And those 3 give you lip or they don't want to do it. Hey, platoon, bring it in. Hey, these are my leadership principles. Get out of line again, you're gone. All right. So let me know what you guys think about this, guys. Again, I tried watching that entire episode, but as I was listening to this, I was just fucking fuming of the lack of leadership that took place and led to what happened to Eddie. All right, guys, let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, take care of yourselves.